Hi guys, it's Nick and I'm here with how to make $50,000 online. This is part 3. If you haven't seen part 1 and 2, you might want to do that. You can see here I have my little sidekick, Brasky. Brasky can be quite noisy, which is why he's sitting on my lap at the moment. He keeps him quiet. Okay, so if you haven't watched the first 2 videos, basically the point of this series is to tell you exactly what I did in my first year of business to make it was nearly 53,000 online, working part-time while I looked after my babies through a resume writing business. So the strategies that I'm going to share with you aren't just for a resume writing business. You can use them in any business. They're meant as an overview only. So I'm up to months 7, 8, and 9. And yes, I have notes so I don't forget anything. And I'm going to talk about what I learned and at the end give you some action steps you can take right now to start making your first 50,000 online. So let's talk about ideal clients. So I probably should have mentioned this earlier, but my ideal clients actually changed as I went along. So when I first came up with the idea of writing these resumes based all online, I really thought it would be, blue collar guys that maybe operated machines and stuff and didn't have a lot of computer experience and needed my help. That's who I thought I'd be working with. As I went along, I started to notice I was getting a lot of office workers and semi-professionals, and they actually became my ideal clients because these guys, I just found them easier to work with. I mean, I had great blue collar guys that I worked with, a lot of them were fantastic, but I really noticed with this demographic, a lot of them tended to go missing in action once they got their resume. So between them receiving their resume and paying me for it, they just tended to vanish into thin air. So I'm really sorry to any of you blue collar workers out there. It's not directed at you. It's just statistically, I was more prone to risk with this demographic. So in the end, I stopped taking this demographic on and started focusing on white collar semi-professionals. Okay, now let's talk about resume development. During this time, I decided to research my competitors. This wasn't something I'd done before. I didn't really give a fig what anyone else was doing. But this time I was curious, what are other people charging and what are people getting for their products? So what I did was I went along and researched a bunch of my competitors. The only thing I learned from this was that it's really confusing because I did my training through iTech Employment. Obviously, there's a whole heap of different places you can learn to write resumes at, and every single resume writer has a different idea about how it should look and how it should be done. So at the end of the day, it was just really confusing. I didn't learn anything from it at all. So I decided it was a waste of time and decided just to focus on my business and what I was doing. Mind my own business, and it worked. Okay, let's talk about the client from hell. So in month 9, now if you'd seen the first 2 videos, you would know about my no risk guarantee, where my customers didn't pay anything till they'd received their resume and were 100% happy with it. Now in month 9, I reached the tipping point with this. Basically, the short story was I had my first non-paying selection criteria client. Selection criteria is an Australian term. It's a lot harder than a resume. It takes me a lot longer to do. A lot goes into it. So to have somebody not pay me is really hard, because so many hours work go into it. So even though I have a buffer, as in my prices incorporate the 10% or so of customers who will go missing in action, the fact that I'd put all these hours of work into something for someone to turn around and say, actually, I just found someone that's cheaper than you, so I'm going to go with them, even though I'd already done the work, was a real kick in the pants for me. So to get around that, I implemented client contracts. Now I used EchoSign for this, which is really easy. I just set up the contract, put in the client's email address, and it sent it to them. Now the contract said that the customer had to provide me with feedback in order to be eligible for a non-payment, and that there had to be something wrong with the work. So they couldn't just decide, hey, I just found somebody that's $50 cheaper, so I'm going to go with them, even though you've already done all the work. there had to actually be a valid reason to be eligible for that non-payment. Now, it was a bit of a pain in the bum sending the contract out all the time, and I did eventually get rid of it. But for the time being, it was worth it just for my own sanity. Now, during this period of time, I also created a new website. So I used WordPress for this one. Now, WordPress was a headache. I'll just tell you straight. 3 months I spent trying to get that WordPress website up, and it just... it was so frustrating. So in the end, I finally got it to the point where it worked, and it was a better website, but not because I'd used WordPress. So it was a better website because WordPress integrates with, if you're not familiar with them, lead pages. And I created a sales page using a lead page template, and the lead page template was really good, like really good, so much better than my old sales page. So although I would never again do a WordPress website unless I could pay somebody to do it for me, I really enjoyed the little integration with lead pages. Okay, so basically I had now a really good sales page. So it's the biggest improvement ever. Okay, and this gave me the confidence to try that upfront payment again. So instead of invoicing customers after I'd done the work and sent it to them, I decided to start asking for payment before I started the work so I could get rid of those pesky contracts. Okay, so what happened was, instead of this time having a pay now button at the checkout on my sales page, so they click pay now, put their credit card details in, I could have gone that way, but I didn't. What I decided instead was I gave people a 10-minute free consult, and after the consult, if we decided to go ahead with me writing their resume, I sent them in an invoice and they paid it, and then I started the work. This worked really well because once people had put the time in to give me all their background and information, and once they'd talked to me on the phone and realised I was a real person, not some, big company that's just spinning things out, or I was just going to disappear in a thin air, or any of that. So it eliminated that buyer risk because they'd actually sort of met me. So I had no problem with getting payment out of people this way. And I think there were 2 people that never paid their invoices, so I never started their work and I never heard from them again. But the reality is these 2 people would have been problems under my old system anyway. So I would have done the work in that case and been chasing them for payment, and they probably would have disappeared. So I'm not worried about that at all. Basically, it was a success and it worked really well, and I got to get rid of that guarantee. So now the guarantee is 7-day refund period, which works a lot better. And I haven't had any refund requests, so that works really well. Obviously, this strategy is working for me. Okay, now the other thing I should talk about, I tried to use Facebook ads for the first time. Epic failure, just chewed through all my money, didn't get anywhere. That's not to say Facebook ads don't work, they just don't work for a resume service. Next up, Marie Forleo. Okay, so I decided to invest in a bit of professional development, and I did Marie Forleo's B-School. Now this was really good. The best thing was the community. So before, I knew nobody else that was making money online. Everybody else I knew had day jobs. They worked 9 to 5. So overnight, I think there's about 11,000 people in the group you get access to. Access to 11,000 other people who are making money online. That is gold. So now if I have a problem, or if I'm stewing over something, or if I want advice on something, I can just post it up there and get a response from people that have already been there, done that. Fantastic. Great investment. One of the best things that came out of this was, for the first time, I implemented a mailing list. Now the mailing list was a crazy success, and I'll talk about that in the next module. So let's talk about profit. There were a few problems. I recovered from morning sickness and was ready to hit the ground running, but there was a few other things that impacted on profit. Now, the main thing was I went on holidays to Bali for 3 weeks, but there was about a month, 3 weeks, and then there was another week where I was sort of in between packing and everything, so I wasn't really working. So that had a big impact on profits. And I made this huge mistake, which I'm going to talk about in the last module. It was a massive mistake. I could have doubled my income if I had caught on to this mistake a little bit earlier. Okay, so let's talk about the profits. Month 7, $4,850. Month 8, $3,730. And month 9, $4,838. So here's your action steps, guys. Write a list of the things that you need help with in your business. So write a list of all the professional development you want to do and start exploring your options with that. I know some of you have probably done a lot of professional development with your day jobs and maybe you didn't like it. I certainly never got anything out of any of the professional development I did as part of my work. But once you're doing it for your own business, it completely takes on a new dimension. So definitely write a list about all the areas of professional development that you want to do. Now, the next thing is if you're struggling to create a sales page, like you think your sales page looks clunky and it's not converting sales, you might want to check out Lead Pages. Now, it's probably not for everyone, but it made a big difference to my sales page. I love them, highly recommend them. They're great. You don't need coding experience. It's really easy. Seriously, I think my 2-year-old could do it. That might be a bit of an exaggeration, but it's really simple. You'll definitely be able to get the hang of it. So write that list of the professional development that you want to do. And the other thing that you'll want to do is check out Lead Pages. Now, below, I have a resource guide for you. It's completely free of charge and it lists all the resources I used in my first year of business and to make my first 50,000 online. Now, the other thing with the resource guide is it also includes links to my free video training. So I have free video training on AdWords, how to get started with them, and also how to create a website from scratch in less than an hour for free. That's on the link below. So check that one out and let me know how you go. Okay, guys, that's it from me for this module.